Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Thinking Project podcast, where we interview founders and creatives to help you take the next step in your business by listening to inspired stories of these wonderful founders. I hope you enjoy this podcast and make sure to share it with your friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for being here, Susan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this the first time you've been a guest on a podcast before?
No.
Okay.
No, I've been on a bunch of podcasts, but I haven't been on one. I feel like COVID kind of shut down in person.
Yeah.
And I don't love doing them via Skype or Zoom or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while.
That's cool. No, Zoom and Skype are like backups.
Yeah.
Because they're very impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even feel like you get to meet people.
Yeah.
When you do it like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, well, let's introduce you, the founder of Freshly Picked. And is that like your only thing you have right now, or?
Yeah. So it's founder, CEO, and chairwoman.
Okay.
Yeah. Freshly Picked. And that's all I have going right now. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot though, right? Like that's a full, and I apologize, founder, CEO, chairwoman.
Yeah.
Great.
It's all right.
How long has Freshly Picked been in business?
13 years this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Wild.
So this is my favorite part of the podcast is like, tell us the origin story. Did you, and like specifically, like, is this something that you always wanted to do? Like you wanted to do, baby and mommy businesses?
Well, I mean, I was talking to a friend yesterday. She was over at my house for something, and, she has early 20s. Her son's in his early 20s, and she's like, "Oh, he doesn't have direction." And I'm like, "That was me." Like in my early 20s, I was living in Vail, Colorado.
Okay. Oh wow.
Working as like I was snowboarding every day, and I was a waitress working the après shift. So like that time right after you get it between lunch and dinner.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd snowboard every morning, work that, hang out with my friends all night, and then no direction, no idea what I think my parents were so frustrated. And then I ended up in Utah, and I lived here for a couple of years, but I didn't go to college. I waitressed. I worked odd office jobs. I didn't have like a career path set out. Then when I got married, I always like when you're working the après shift, it's like the most lucrative shift, even more than lunch, because you're basically just serving drinks. So the more people get inebriated, the more you get bigger tips. Yeah,
of course.
And like my manager had like she was like, "Susan, you're sassy. You lean into that. Guys, the drunker guys get, the more they want to be sassed." And so I would just lean into it, and I would make a lot of money, like $1,000 a day. Whoa. And it was like my first thing where I'm like, wow, like I'm working hard, but there's like this opportunity meeting my personality where I can actually make a lot of money. And I love making money. Money's like my number one thing.
Yeah.
I love making money.
That's perfect.
I'm super upfront about it, actually. Yeah. And so when we got married, we're super poor. My husband was in school, and I was waitressing, but waitressing in Utah is not like waitressing in Colorado. And I was not making hardly any money. And I can remember after my daughter was born, we were over at my friend's house, and she, on her dining room table, had all of these sewing projects going. And I was like, "Well, what are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm making stuff and selling it online." And I was like, I remember looking at her and being like, "You're not smarter than me." And so I just started making stuff and selling it on Etsy.
Oh, wow.
And, I would make like a couple $100 a month, and it felt like I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Like it felt like, that was my money.
Wow. Holy cow. And that's how it all started.
Yeah, that was so. And then when my son was born, I started making the moccasins. I had kind of built up a blog. It was pretty unsuccessful. And then an Etsy shop that was equally unsuccessful. But through that, I was able to get the word out about my moccasins, and they just sold out. So I had seen like a couple friends on Etsy, like hit the right product and then just kind of take off.
Yeah.
And I told my husband, I was like, I feel like if I found the right product, I could make something of it.
Yeah.
And the moccasins were that.
And so what was the idea? So the moccasins just started with
with my son. I couldn't find anything that I liked, and so I made it myself.
That's perfect though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that's how every journey starts is you're like, I don't like any of this. I'm going to make something that I like.
Yeah. When people are like, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, think about something you use every day and you hate it because it's not exactly how you want it, but you still use it because you want to use it. Start there. Because you use it so you understand how it works and how it works into your life. Optimize that and see if that's something that you can make a business out of.
Yeah. And then that's easy because you're the ideal customer.
Yeah. And good brand is empathy. And if you're empathetic with yourself first, then you can be empathetic with other people.
I love that. I mean, my whole sales platform is built on empathy because I think people just overlook that. So, I mean, we all know the definitions of empathy, but like for you, what does that mean? And how do you incorporate that into a brand? Well,
for me, I'll just through my experience. So, when I was shocked by motherhood, actually, like seriously shocked. I didn't realize how selfish I was. And when I had my baby, my daughter, she's we're best friends, but motherhood was hard for me because naturally I thought about myself first instead of thinking about her. And so it was like a huge mind shift for me. And then when I had my son, it was a lot easier. Like I took to the second baby quicker. And a lot of moms will say that, like it's harder to bond with the first. It took me a long time. But I also didn't realize like how lonely it was. And like that you hear about it, but like your men don't understand this, but your body is so different. And it seems like a little thing, but do you remember when you're going through puberty and all of a sudden you're hitting your hips on everything because you don't understand the parameters of your body? Like you're growing so fast. But that's how it is with motherhood. Like the parameters of your body have changed. So it's not just like, oh, my boobs are different. That's not it. It's like the actual parameters are different. Plus it functions in a different way. Like all of a sudden now what I thought was for pleasure is now for function. It's just like the weirdest thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I can remember feeling really lonely and really sad and really happy and just like all these feelings. And so when my son was born, I feel like I was much better at like being able to articulate it and being able to like identify the feelings that I was feeling. But with the moccasin, you get like, and then you know, your parent, time is such a thief. Like when you pull out baby clothes that you're like, wait, they fit in these last week, and all of a sudden it looks like they're newborn clothes, but they're not, you know? You get a little weepy because you're like, am I spending this right? Am I doing everything I'm supposed to be doing? So with the moccasins, they get like their footprint on the bottom when they wear them. And it's like this really cool experience where you're able to kind of encapsulate this transformation as a mom, like from a woman to a mom, and then also like the transformation of the baby. And so as Freshly Picked, we really want to sit in like, we know what you're going through. Like we understand that motherhood's hard. We understand it's lonely. We understand it's funny. We understand it's frustrating. And let's like give you products that can celebrate that.
Wow. And how long did it take you to figure out like moccasins were it? And then when moccasins came, how did you like develop the rest of it? Because it's more than moccasins right now.
Yeah. So we did moccasins for the first 7 years, just moccasins.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And then we started branching out into other soft sole styles. And now I think we have, 10 or 12 soft sole styles. And then in 2017, we launched a Kickstarter for our diaper bag and sold like almost 400K on our Kickstarter. Yeah.
Cool.
So we're able to fund like our first PO. And now we have, again, I think 10 to 12 styles of diaper bags. In 2019, we launched our swaddle that is pretty revolutionary. It's got like this inner piece that like holds the baby in, and then this outer piece that
that was most frustrating, trying to swaddle a baby.
Yeah, so ours is Velcro. It's this really strong Velcro, so it has like this piece that just covers like their chest and their arms, and you Velcro that, and then the swaddle's like kind of loose around it.
Oh, that's
cool. You can lift up the bottom and change their diaper without waking them up or whatever.
Yeah. So I guess I really found it inspiring because I saw you at the Consumer Summit.
Yeah.
And just talking now just about how you connect with mothers and that story, like, cause you're right. Like I don't know what that is, right? Like my wife would know better than me, but I try to like be empathetic. And that's why I like to have a lot of like, female founders on here, because I can't imagine like going through the feelings of being a mother and then trying to build a business, working with a team. So how do you communicate that message in your brand with like what does that look like when because you sell it, you have the moccasins, you have the bags, you have the swaddles and everything. And then you're trying to communicate this other message of like, we know what you're going through. And how do you kind of make those two mesh?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it just starts with like a good creative team. So we have a really good brand guide. And when we're doing photo shoots, when we're writing copy, when we're putting out new product, we're thinking of mom first. She's always on our mind. And so for example, our product lead Marissa last year had a baby, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And because first of all, no one gets more done than a woman getting ready to go on maternity leave, hands down.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely.
It's true. Like, yeah. And then also like the way that she's able to connect with moms, because we sit firmly in the new mom category. So like our customer life cycle, if we're lucky, it extends to about 2.5 years, but it's really just under 2 years. And so we're constantly having to get the new moms. And so like her sitting at the helm of the product was so awesome, because now she's using the product, she's experiencing it at home, and she's able to bring into work her struggles and what she's going through. And then we're able to like put that feedback right into our product.
That's awesome.
And so whether it's like someone on the team having a baby or we're focus grouping it, I mean, her team is running at least 20 focus groups a month.
Ooh, that's cool.
And just like testing the product and wear testing and making sure that we're like really staying true. They don't like, no one will take feedback from me anymore. My youngest is 13. Like I have no idea what new moms are going through anymore. I can remember, but like we're such unreliable auditors of ourselves that like even my memories don't serve the company well anymore. That takes a lot of like self-awareness too. I feel like just being able to go out there. But who was it? I think it was Kevin O'Leary, one of the sharks, who said like, him. Yeah, Kevin O'Leary was like, if I want to get something done, I give it to a busy mother, because she'll find the best, most efficient way and quickest way to do it. Yes, it's so true though.
Because he was like, I love investing in, female led companies and like mother led companies. And then he said that quote. And I, when we were talking, when I came up and asked you if you wanted to be on the podcast, you were talking with a few other women talking about like, invest in, female investing, female led companies and things like that. So I'd love to hear like your thoughts on like, what are some of the problems that female investors face? Like I've had quite a few actually, and we've had this conversation, and I just feel like, how do you get to the root of getting more money in female led companies pockets? And this is top of mind for me right now. I feel like Utah is so amazing with female entrepreneurs. Literally, they're everywhere. In fact, this is Susan Madsen from UVU will probably be like, that fact's not true, because she's very data driven. But I would say probably in Utah, there are more female companies that hit the $1 million mark than male led companies. But then there's not a pipeline or path for them to get beyond that. And if you like, for example, if you go to BYU or University of Utah, you're a man and you go into tech, there then opens up a perfect path for you to become successful in that field. Because that's what we've been focusing on in Utah for the last 20 years is and it's frustrating.
Well, it's amazing because we've built up this incredible economy and all of these people that have money that can then invest in future entrepreneurs. So I'm not mad about it. But as far as if you want to go into consumer goods, it's just like not there. And if you're a female, it's certainly not there. And so my focus is like, how can I light the way, and how can I build a path for female entrepreneurs that come behind me? Because what a lot of people don't realize, and in tech, it's totally different. Like you can't make $1 million without raising $10 million in tech. Your first $1 million as a consumer goods product company is grit and determination. It's free. Then if you want to make $5 million, it's going to cost you about $1 million.
Okay. Like in funding.
Yeah.
Okay. Or just in general.
In your cash flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what happens is a lot of women hit that $1 million mark and they don't understand that it's going to cost them $1 million to get to the next stage. And everything starts getting more expensive and they think they're doing their business wrong. When in fact, that's just exactly the cost of doing business. And same thing when you hit to 5 million, now it's going to cost you 5 million to get to 10 million. And so consumer goods, it's an expensive business. You've got to think about brand. You've got to think about supply chain. You've got to think about, POs. And are you doing just strictly e-com, or now are you having to fund POs for like wholesale? So it is a very expensive business. But when you run out of cash, females also look at money differently. Like if I remember when I raised my first money, I was like terrified. I'm like, what if I don't pay it back? And my friend who was on my board at the time, he's like, okay. And I was like, no. Like I have to pay it back. Girls, we can't borrow money and not pay it back.
Sure.
It's like just like in us,
My wife is the exact same.
Yeah.
Because I would do that. I would be like, oh, we need 20 grand to start a project. Cool. Let's look.
Let's find someone.
Yeah. We'll
and then you also understand that if someone gives you 20 grand, they're looking at it like, I may or may not see that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I understand.
But girls are like 20 grand.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. So there's just like, there needs to be like this whole information that's put out. And then there needs to be kind of a shift in your mindset to understand how to do it.
Do you think that is, I mean, obviously there's more to this picture, but do you think that's like one of the main things is like how, and maybe I'm asking this wrong, so I'm just trying to learn, but like how women view money and raising money, is that part of it?
That's part of it. Also, I feel like we're in a really conservative culture here.
Sure.
And I think money's viewed as wrong, or there's some like emotional, cultural view around money that's generational and also perpetuated. And so
like what kind of view about money?
That like it's easier to get into heaven as a poor man than a rich man. Like that kind of thing.
Sure.
You know?
Like it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle.
Yeah, which is actually a gate opening is
right, exactly. Yeah, no, I got you. I'm with you. Like I was raised in Iowa, by the way. So like coming from that kind of culture to like this, the culture here is like shock. Like it was a culture shock for me.
Yeah.
Like, what the
Yeah. But I think like I love money. I love making money. I love counting money. I love spending money. And I remember when I first started telling girls that, they would like almost like, can we talk about that? So I feel like the more women that are talking about money, the more women that are showing you how to make money, the more men that are supporting those initiatives, the better Utah is going to be. I feel like it's going to take everyone. Yeah. All hands on deck.
I agree. And it's funny. We met at the consumer summit and I listened to you on the stage and you said, I think you were up there with the founder of Mixers.
Jess.
And Jess, and you guys are like, eat what you kill. And it was funny because I was looking around, I was sitting in the audience and a couple people were like this. But I'm a sales guy.
Yes, you knew exactly.
So I was like, I laughed because I was like, that's sick, right?
Yeah.
Because like, that's what you do. Like,
you get paid when you make a sale. Yes.
Exactly. And I'm like, and people view that as like, I think that's also part of it. Is like people view that as kind of bad. And I'm like, well, no, that's just how, like for better or for worse, that's the world we live in. Right?
Yeah.
We just,
and we specifically were talking about influencer marketing for that. And like Freshly Picked, we're a big business, but like we made it through COVID and we're going to make it through the next 3 years by cutting costs. And so we don't have a huge marketing budget. In fact, it's probably like our smallest budget that we currently operate. And so in order for us to work with influencers, we have to build a relationship and then they get paid when they make sales.
Yeah.
And so that's what we meant by that. And then when Jess started Mixers, she's like, these influencers want, like money up front. And I'm like, build a relationship and then they get paid when you get paid. Like it's reciprocity at that point. It's not anything other than that. And no one has been better at building relationships than Jess. She just hits the gate running and she is going to have a different outcome than a lot of other people because she's willing to do what other people are not willing to do.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. What is she going to do differently? And I'm just curious because like a lot of people hear this podcast who want to start businesses. And that's the point of this is like, I want people to get pushed a little bit, hear a story like this. But like what is she doing differently besides like, I mean, obviously, because by the way, I think the influencer thing, I see both sides of it. Like I've talked to influencers, I don't agree with that. But I'm like, it's kind of like, I've been on the other side of it. I've been where you guys are. And I'm like, I had a CBD business and I was like, it's tough because you pay them up front and then.
Well, and like, I don't have P&G marketing budget. I don't have Kraft mac and cheese money. And so like,
sure.
And the pendulum will always swing where like these big brands will feel like, oh, we got to pay to get the top of the funnel, you know, and then they'll swing back where they're so the big brands are not consistent with it. And I've been strictly consistent. Like, hey, we are going to build relationships and then, work with influencers on a pay by sell. So there's that. But Jess is an incredible entrepreneur. She also didn't go to school for entrepreneur. She started this out of a need that she had herself. Mixers, the key product is her time. And you should actually have her on because she'll just talk about periods the whole time. And it's incredible.
Hey, I would love it. By the way, I've reached out to her, but
okay, let's get it. Jess, come on the podcast.
That's right.
So she started it out of a need. And, you know, initially, her husband was playing basketball in Europe. And so she was kind of doing it part-time. But then when COVID shut down basketball in Europe, she started on it full time. And Jess invests in relationships like no one I've ever seen. And is the Energizer Bunny of...
She seemed really cool when I saw her.
She's incredible, like, wow, but that girl can get more done in a day than I get done in a week. And so she's just going. Yeah. But she has goals that she wants to achieve and things that she's trying to hit. And so she is out getting it done. But the best thing about Jess is she is like going to take everyone with her.
That's important though. Like, build that team, and then when the tide rises, all the boats rise.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that. No, I mean, when I heard you guys up there, I was like, holy cow. That's why I said, like, I got to talk to all you guys. I was actually there for VIA.
Oh yeah.
But when I saw all this, I was like, I did some VIA stuff.
Yeah.
But they let me go. So whatever. I can talk whatever I want now, for the most part. But I was like, I was there for VIA. I did a few things, but then I saw Cindy, I saw you, I saw Jess, I saw a few other people. I was like, whoa, I gotta like do better at like having more female founders on, because I feel like every time we have this conversation, it's very enlightening. And it helps a lot of people, like, cause I feel like a lot of moms, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of moms feel helpless, like when they're in that kind of stage and they're like, how can I contribute? Or maybe they feel like they're not doing enough. And so this kind of helps, or
possibly. I mean, I don't want to speak for other women. I think that it is like we have just to backtrack. We have a group of stay-at-home women who do our customer service. It's called the Mom Squad.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
We patterned it after Chatbooks, and now there's a couple companies just actually patterned it after us. And then my friend Lindsay White, who sells breastfeeding gear, calls it the Titty Committee. I think hers is called. But it's just so everyone, cool. We all have stay-at-home moms, and like most of our customer service team, they have 1 or 2 degrees. They just have decided to become a stay-at-home mom. And there's maybe 1 or 2 of them that need that income, but a lot of them actually just want the adult interaction, because it's just tickle, like your brain, you're not using it in the same way. I feel like motherhood is just the most amazing thing ever. Like there's this time in your life, well, like when you turn my daughter's turning 16, so I'm experiencing this right now. There's these times in your life when you think, okay, I'm going to be different. Like when you turn 16 and you get your license, you're like, I'm going to be different, right? No, you're still the same jerk, but you're just picking up eggs from the store now for your mom. And then you're like, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to be different. And it's like, no, now you just go to college, or now you're just working, or when I get this job, or when I get in this, and nothing, like you're still the same person. But motherhood was like so eye-opening for me, because I went into the hospital one person to have my baby, and I came out a totally different person. Like my priorities have shifted, my understanding has shifted, my empathy, like just a whole new world opened up. And like you're giving birth to a baby, but you're also giving birth to a mother at the same time. And so I think like some of these moms are trying to figure out like, how do I, if I want to stay home, how do I do that and also work? If I want to leave the house, how do I get over the guilt of leaving my child at home and having childcare, which is a whole thing to figure out, but awesome it's empowering when you can figure that out. And then there are some women who like are longing to be moms, but can't. And so I think there's just this energy around motherhood and you just want to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had a baby, I was like, oh, I can get way more done in a day than I've ever gotten done. And so you're just like your capacity increases in a really cool way.
Wow, that's awesome. No, and it's beautiful that you said that. I love that. I've never thought about it that way. Like when you give birth to a baby and a birth to a new mother. Because I've definitely, no, it's really great. I love these conversations because I feel like I'm growing, you know what I mean? From like this guy who doesn't know anything to like having these really, sobering conversations. It's really awesome. So when you talk about like bringing up entrepreneurs behind you, female entrepreneurs behind you, what does that look like? Does that mean that, you might down the line, we might have to find VCs or private equity that just funds females?
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, it's going to take everyone. So for me personally, currently, like I probably twice a year, I'll do something just entrepreneurial focused. Okay. So like, this summer we'll probably, Jess and I actually are hosting it. We're going to do like female founded, just get together. Like,
cool.
Last year we had like 50 girls come, and this year I'm sure it'll be double. Then as far as like, I try to make myself accessible to everyone. It's getting harder. In fact, this summer I'm saying no to all lunches because my daughter's 16 and I only have 2 summers left with her. And so I'm feeling
trying to get that all involved.
Manage that. And that's actually why I'm starting a podcast, is so that I can have these conversations and be accessible, but it doesn't have to be me all the time.
Yeah.
I have a mastermind that I do where, because there's like kind of this like stages of questions. A lot of them center around like, how do I get started?
Sure.
Which the answer is always just get started. Like it really is.
Amen.
Like get the courage and the guts and the drive to just start.
Yeah.
And if it costs you some money, figure it out, but like just get started. And so my mastermind, the qualifications are female founded, 50K in sales a year, and e-commerce. And so those 3, otherwise you're not going to get as much out of it. And so, and you have to kind of have put in the work to get to 50K in sales. And sometimes it happens quick and sometimes it happens over a year, but like you need to understand those late nights and those hard things. And then what we focus on at the mastermind is, what is your goal, number one, and how can we help you achieve that through systems and processes? Because a lot of times you get to $1 million pretty quick, like I said, through grit and determination. And then you realize, I need to now start implementing
everything
systems.
changes. Yep.
Yeah. And so we do forecasting, a little bit of cash flow, a lot of advertising, marketing, influencer work. We do tons of mindset because it's a lot of mindset, and then manufacturing and distribution.
That's cool. So let's talk about mindset, because that's probably the toughest one.
Yeah.
You can learn cash flow, you can learn forecasting, finance, and all that.
Or hire it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But the mindset, what's like, is there a place that you start with mindset?
Well, for me, I always want to understand, like, what do people want? And it's like one of my favorite questions to ask people, because I think there's this girl who worked for me. She started as an intern, and then she worked her way up. She worked for me for like 5 years. And when she started, she was going to school for elementary education. And we were both working late one night. And I think I was like, hey, do you want to be a teacher? And she's like, no, but no one's ever asked me that.
That's great. That's wild.
Right?
Huh? Wow.
Right. And so she finished school, but she didn't do her student teaching. And then she came to work for me full time, and she's brilliant at operations. And so she really excelled in that department, and then went on to like a really cool job after that.
Oh, cool.
So I always just want to know, like, what do you want? Because I think, female, male, a lot of us are people pleasers, and we just either want to make our parents happy, or our spouse happy, or our friends happy, or someone proud or happy. And really understanding, like, what do you want? I do that exercise like once a year, where I write down crazy stuff to like menial stuff. Like, I want to keep my bathroom clean every day, you know, like all of it. But just understanding, like, what do you want? And then the same rules and the same method that applies to forecasting applies to goal setting.
Yeah.
So like, you're like, okay, we want to make 25 million this year. What does that look like every month? What does that look like every day? How many launches do we need to have? How many wholesale partners do we need to have? And so just figuring it out, like, where am I today and where is that goal? And what do I need to do between here and there? Like, what bridges do I need to build to get there? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to learn? How do I need to go about this? And kind of just like laying it out for people. And then what happens is you start to get, okay, but that won't work because, and then you're understanding the limiting beliefs that that person has. And it's usually around feeling like they don't have the qualifications.
Yeah, like imposters. That was what I was going to lead into. Yeah, but go ahead.
Or that no one else in my family has ever done something like this, so it's not been modeled out. Or just like, why me? And my thing for that is always like, why not you?
Right. I think that that's perfect because that's what happens, right? Is like you lay it all out and anybody can lay out the plan.
Yeah.
But then it's like, all right, how do we actually get this done? That's when you start hitting all the real mindset problems. Yeah. Imposter syndrome. Like, is anybody going to actually, believe this? So how do you, because this happened to me yesterday. We were talking about it before the podcast. You just get, you get some hate every once in a while. And it might be, like not hate, but maybe not even hate, but like people like, I don't think you can do that. Like, be careful kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, how do you handle and navigate those conversations? I know how I did. Works for me, but it could work for different everybody.
Okay. So for me, both extreme love and extreme hate are the same.
Oh, okay.
And so if you listen to this extreme love, you have to listen to the extreme hate.
Okay.
And if you listen to the extreme hate, you have to believe both.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so for me, if I get one or two, hey, that's cool, that seems all right.
Yeah.
That's encouraging for me. Or one or two people that I really trust that want to give me like meaningful feedback, that's also encouraging for me. Okay. And so I look to the people that I trust and love for feedback instead of the outside. I mean, I love likes, we love comments, the dopamine hit is real, I love the number of views, like we love all that. It's really fun. But you just have to look at both of them as the same thing. And so it's all noise.
It's all noise.
It's all noise.
You kind of like, I think I've heard it before, like, and I love like philosophy, but you just kind of like really bad stuff, really good stuff. You want to stay like in the middle, right? You just kind of.
And you have to decide that people outside of your inner circle are not going to be able to tell you stuff about yourself that's not true.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I heard the quote one time that someone said, like, if you have a problem with me, call me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me.
Right. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem with me and you don't have the number, let's go off on that algorithm, put it in the comments and let's go.
That's right. Yeah. Boost me.
Boost it. Let's go. Yeah. And for that purpose, the algorithm views extreme love and extreme hate as the same.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of everything. It's all fuel for the fire.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's so cool. So how is it navigating those mindset conversations? Like when you actually get into these conversations, because I've had them with, men, but I'm believing that it's obviously different with women.
I don't think so. I think everyone's looking for approval and acceptance.
Okay.
And then permission. Yeah. So like I give out those three things as much as I can. They cost me nothing.
Yeah. And you just like, you have my permission.
Not even that. My thing is, you've got this.
Oh yeah.
Like flip it back on them. Like, and you're doing an amazing job. You're building an incredible company. Like all of those things are true when I say them to people, and they cost me nothing. And I make sure that I am just giving those out as much as I can.
Right. And that's probably a lot for people, they probably, I mean, I think people look for those things, like you said. I don't think that they hear that enough. And so hearing it from someone like you would be like,
right. If they trust me and they respect me, then the nicest thing I can do is tell them they're doing a good job.
Yeah. Like keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all you need. Right. But I love when you get back to it, like you just start. Cause that's the thing that's the reason for this podcast. Yeah. It's been going for 3 years. Cause I just want people to just be like, stop. Would actually be great if people stopped listening to this, because they were so busy doing their own thing.
Sure. Just get started. Yeah. The answer is always get started. Always.
So when you tell people that, do you get any pushback when?
Yeah, a lot.
What's the most common pushback?
I'm not, well, I mean, it's always this, or there's an excuse.
Yeah.
It's either time, energy, money, people, whatever. I don't sit great in that space, actually. I don't have a lot of patience for that. And so I'm not the best person. There are people who
help you get started.
Yeah, who can help you get started, but I'm not the best person to help you get started.
Because your story, from your story earlier, you just did it. Like, this is just what
Well, and I hope people look at me and be like, exactly what I did. Like, she's not smarter than me.
Right.
And if Susan can do it, I can do it. Like, I hope that's what I hope that's what I can help people when they want to get started, is that if you've made one sell, I'm your girl. Come to me and I will help you out. But until you get started, like, I can't sit in that space very long. I wish I was more patient in that space, but I'm not, because that's not something I struggle with personally.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for me too. Like, I help people get started, but it's also hard for me because listening to it, but I've turned that into kind of my strength, because when people get like that, I almost stop the conversation.
Yeah. So come to you. Yeah. You're great at that.
Like, but I'll be like really kind of like, a little confrontational, because I'll be like, look, are you looking for me to like tell you all the reasons why you can't, or are we just going to like because it's my favorite thing is, like, I heard this when I started my CBD e-commerce company, and I heard it from a woman who said, if your product is perfect, you've launched too late.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tell people. I'm like, are you scared it's going to be shitty? Because it probably is going to be.
Right. And but if you get one sell, then it's an indication that people want it.
Yeah. Then let's roll. Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
Because I go, look, don't worry. Like, my first podcast was terrible. My first business sucked. My first sale was terrible. Yeah. Like, but it's fine. Like, if you're okay with failing, then you'll be fine.
Well, I mean, and it's scary. Like, I'm starting a podcast, and I've done this with my podcast. I've said for years, I'm going to start a podcast. And actually, I don't think it's been the right time until now.
Sure.
But I like gave myself all these excuses. Like, okay, I need a room in my house to do it. I need all the equipment. I need a producer. And I've gotten all those things lined up, and I've still been dragging my feet. And the truth is, I don't like to be shitty at stuff.
Right.
I do not like to be bad at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is hard for me to be vulnerable and to actually just do it. But I know that that's what I need to do. So I'm just going to jump in 2 feet and just get it done.
And figure it out. Well, and because that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. It's like what you said, when you who was allowed in your mastermind group, the people who had the long nights, who struggled and lost sleep because they were worried about all these things. Like, those are the people who know how to help each other. Right.
Well, and you will lose you will think learning the process is actually getting started, but it's not. And so I have seen people go to all the masterminds and do all the courses, and that's all they do.
Right.
And so I'm trying to eliminate those people too.
Sure.
Because I want you to just get started. And then once you get started, come over here. Like, I had a girl reach out, and she's like, I'm only at 20K. And I'm like, looking at her business, I'm like, we'll make an exception. Because she just started a couple months ago.
And she's at 20K.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, killer, we'll make an exception. You can come.
Yeah. Because it seems like to me, with that statement, it's not so much about the money as it is about the mindset and about people who belong there, who can help each other like grow.
Well, and it's not even that I think everyone should belong there.
Sure.
It's like,
okay.
I need everyone to be at the same mental space. Otherwise we use a lot of our time, and it's only 2 days and we go fast, but you come away, cool. Like, I've had girls come away and 1,000x their business, come away 100x their business, come away and double their business. It's just what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And if we're spending our time massaging this one person to help them get started, then we're not spending our time getting the girls where they want to be.
Yeah. It's just like when I train salespeople, like, there's some people that you have to spend more time with because they have the potential to be there. Like, it's easier, like, and that was what I learned as a sales coach, was like, it's easier to take a 6 and make them an 8 than it is from a 1 to make them a 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's easier to.
Once you're a 3, we can move you along. Yeah, but then
we can move you up.
Yeah, but you got to get there. You got to get to the 3 by yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
and you get there by watching other people and modeling that behavior. You don't even know. It's like when you first start as an artist, you're just copying stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's so many girls out there. Oh, this person's copying me. No, they're not. It is a wheel. It goes one way. Like, we are all trying to get, like, momentum is created one way. And so don't worry about copying someone, and don't worry about whatever. Just get started. There's room for everyone.
Well, I posted this the other day. It was like an abundance mindset when you have one of those, you don't even look at competition. Like you start a podcast. I think the best thing I did for my business and my podcast was I actually didn't do any market research.
Yeah.
Because then when I started it, I was like, I've got the only one, and I was kind of jazzed. But then like you start getting into the community, I'm like, my podcast is a dime a hundred. You know what I mean? But that's not the point.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's like we're all just here.
Everyone has a different perspective.
Yeah, and you can ask. And I've interviewed people who've been interviewed a million podcasts, and I've asked them the same questions. But the beauty of that is you get a different answer. Mm-hmm. You have a whole different experience on one. And it's a funny thing to just tell people like, no, dude, you just gotta go. Mm-hmm. There's nothing anybody can do. Like, stop spending your money on books and podcast. You know, it's just
I was talking to my therapist yesterday. Actually, I hate the self-help space books. And the
I've gotten rid
business
of them.
books. Yeah, no, I
I've
don't.
gotten rid of a lot.
I can't read them. Now
I do like a lot of philosophy or like psychology now. Mm-hmm. But I used to do that. But the funny thing was I started reading all the self-help books and all the business books. Okay. Especially sales books. Like they literally all say the same thing.
Yeah.
I tell people like, I will save you $1,000 right now. Don't read any sales books.
Right.
Just go start selling.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'll save you all the money.
Yeah. I mean, you either go to college and you learn, or you pay tuition to the school of life.
Yeah.
And it ends up costing you about the same. Mm-hmm. But the school of life, I think the dividends are better.
Get you a little further.
Yeah.
I love that you said that too, because that's my huge, like I have a degree. I'm getting my MBA. I'm just finishing that. But so I'm not like a college basher, but the problem is with like people who are like, you can make millions and not go to school is what you said, right? Is like, you have to pay either way.
Yeah, you're paying.
You got to pay either way. Mm-hmm. So don't think like, because people will come to me in sales and be like, oh, I can sell and not have to do anything and make $1 million. I'm like, if that's what you think, and sales not the right for you.
Right.
Because we have to pay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay.
You're gonna pay. Like the first time somebody tells you to F off as a salesman and it like hangs up on the phone, like I would rather spend $3,000 and go to college, college course than have to do that.
2 credits, please.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Or like the first time you start a business and that first like return you get because somebody bought it and they hate you or whatever. Like, that's hard.
Yeah. And it's hard not to take it personal.
It's hard not to take it personal, and it's hard to like, because you lose that money and then you got to ding on your merchant account. And like, now you're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. All this stuff.
Yeah. So that's just wild. But I love that. I love the mindset stuff because I feel like, you can learn the rest.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, you can figure it out if you know how to, if you're willing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? You can figure anything out.
Everything's figure outable. That's a self-help book.
Is it?
Those are a great book though. Like there's some self-help books, like one of my favorite one is like an anti-self-help book. It's by Mark Manson. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. My therapist actually recommended that.
It's actually, that's when I stopped reading.
Let me guess, you just learn how to not give a fuck.
Well, it's like, Mark Manson is just this, yeah. It's just this counterintuitive way. That's actually when I stopped reading him because he was like, it was so beautiful. He laid it out perfectly that I was like, okay. That's right. Like the first chapter is like, don't try. And the essence of the chapter is like, if you've ever, like I grew up in Iowa. And so the way I explain it is like, if you've ever tried to chase a chicken, like you can't get it. So, but like when you stop chasing chickens, they come back home. Like, so like, that's kind of life, right? You have to divorce. And that's what I teach salespeople. Like you have to divorce yourself from the outcomes.
Yeah.
Like inputs over outputs.
Yeah. I actually, when we talk about mindset and we go through like, what do you want? And then we lay it all out. I tell people to like, shut your book and don't look at it for a month.
Ooh. Yeah.
And just see how much of that has actually like implanted itself into your mind and your psyche. And then like if your behaviors and attitudes change because of you just identifying what you want.
Yeah. I love that because I was in I love learning like digital selling and copywriting, and we were learning about headlines, like how to make a great headline. And he was like, write down all of your headlines that you want to make this piece of like this article for. He's like, send them to 5 friends, ask them for their favorite, ignore all their favorites, and then a week later, ask them which one they remembered. And he was like, that's your headline.
Genius.
So that's this, that reminded me of when you said goals. He's like, shut your book, forget about them.
Let your subconscious work.
And then in a week, and then in a month, tell me which one you remember.
Yeah. And and I've done this so many times, and I'll open a book like a couple years later and I'll be like, check. Like I've accomplished everything I want to.
Right.
But I'm not actively, I am actively, but I'm not focused solely on that. Like
Yeah.
just everything in my life is changing and shifting to accomplish it.
Yeah, because I know. So I stopped reading self-help books, but I have a crazy
Here
memory.
we go.
Yeah, I stopped reading them, but I have a crazy. But I don't know like what defines as self-help, because a lot of the ones I read are like philosophy and psychology, and so maybe that's a self-help book.
You don't have to
Yeah,
defend
I don't care.
it.
I don't care. I like
it's
the
just
power
for
of
me and myself. I don't do it.
sure. But like have you heard of Atomic Habits?
Yeah.
Because this is kind of like what you're saying, right? It's like you write down everything, but then like your habits make you the person who's ready for 50K.
Yeah.
And you want people in your mastermind who have the habits of 50K people.
Yeah. Like
we're all like, yeah.
And you know what? It does not look like the same for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like you don't have to get up at 4 a.m. to make $1 million.
I'll never get up. I did that
don't. And your little subtle changes that are consistent are better than like huge life shifts.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. I just, because it's so true. Like, this is those little things, because everybody is looking for the big things. I think that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you start a business, you're like, my hardest part with like talking business with people is I bring on entrepreneurs, but I haven't had any huge people on. And they're like, when are you going to get like so and so and so? And I'm like, everybody's so focused on Jeff Bezos or like these crazy big deals. And I go, yeah, but Susan Petersen lives right next door to you, and she would, she would let you pick her brain.
Yeah.
But you think Jeff Bezos is the only person who can. You think if your idea is not Amazon, that it's not worth starting, right? Some people think like,
sure. And then also to that point, when you are people are always like, how do you get a mentor? And a lot of people think, okay, I need someone like Jeff Bezos or someone who's accomplished everything that I can. And my thing is like, no, you look at the next phase that you're trying to go into, and that's where you pick your mentorship from. Because if I tried to talk business with Bezos, where he's at and where he's operating from, those principles and systems that he's using don't make sense in my business.
Yeah, and that's too, because you're too far. Like
he's too far.
Yeah, you're talking.
He's like looking like in the rearview mirror, like 100 miles ago, and trying to help me navigate that. And it's not like he can't see the bumps, he can't see the stuff that's coming up, but the closer to him he can do. So I always look for people that have just done what I want to do. Yeah,
so you're like 10 million, you're looking for that person who did 15.
Yeah.
That person who did 20. Yeah. Because it's right there. It's like these baby steps.
Yeah.
And that's what I've actually noticed, probably more than just people not starting, is also people like they have these limiting beliefs that are like, if I don't have $1 million idea. And I talked to somebody about this on my podcast a while ago, but it never left my mind, because he was like, how would you ever recognize $1 million idea if you haven't failed at your $1 idea or your $1,000 idea? It's like, you would never know. You would never know, because you don't know.
And most people accidentally make $1 million. I know that seems weird, but a lot of people do.
I hear you. Yeah. Because you're like, I didn't expect this.
Yeah.
I was just trying to help me.
Yeah. And
or
I was
somebody,
Yeah. And I was focused on this, and then look, there's this over here. That's one of the outcomes of this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my podcast opened up a ton of doors. Well, and I love that you're starting the podcast for that, right? Because everybody needs it. There's 2 billion podcasts. But by the way, what's funny about podcasting is, so when you start, everybody has a podcast. There's like 2 billion out there.
Yeah, it's a new blog.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So, but then like podcasts that get past 10 episodes, it goes down.
Right.
And then the podcasts that get over 100, it's like now you're like in the 20% bracket.
It's wild.
And if you have over 200 episodes, you're in like the 1% of podcasts.
Wow.
Who like, so like it gets shorter the more that you do it.
Okay, that just became my goal.
Yeah, it's like
200. Write it down for someone for me and shut the book.
Because that's, I was like, I started my podcast and I was like, oh, this sucks. And then like reviews too. So like 2 billion podcasts out there. Podcasts with more than 10 reviews goes down to like 70%. Podcasts with more than 500 reviews, you're in the top half.
Wow.
You're
that's
like,
amazing.
But like, so you know what I mean? Like you can be in this industry that's like, holy crap, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But consistency kills.
Right.
And like now I have a podcast. I'm one of 2 billion, but I'm not, because I have over 200 episodes and I have over 50 reviews. And now
how many downloads do you get per episode?
Per episode, probably between YouTube and Anchor, probably a couple thousand.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So it's like,
so again, you're like in the top.
Yeah, I'm in right here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so So that's what like business is for me, because everybody has a business. Everybody and their dog has a business. But like businesses who make over $1 million, now that competition's almost.
Well, and to quantify that for women, if you make over $1 million, you're in the top 2% of businesses.
There you go.
For women.
That's it.
And then
you can compete with 2%.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even, you don't even need to compete. You just like,
I hear,
whoa, I'm in the top 2% of women-owned businesses. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You know? And then if you can get funding, you're in the top 2% of that 2%. And so you just, yeah. And we brought on funding 5 years ago. And, you know, people always ask me how to get funding. And I always just say everything good in my life I fell ass backwards into. But I did set out that year to get funding.
Yeah.
And I wrote it down, and then that's what happened.
We're going to get it.
Yeah.
Let's go. How many investors did you have to go through? How many pitches did you have to go through to get your first one? Or was it like networking?
Yeah. It's all networking.
Networking.
Yeah. I had a friend who kind of laid out a plan for me that I followed to a T, and it worked out perfectly, which was you get 5 people on the hook. So we went around and I found like five investors that I really liked. Mine's private equity, and so it's different than venture. Yeah. And from those 5 people, what I did was I just over communicated for like 6 months. So twice a month I was sending them updates about the business and the moves we were making and the plays we were making and what we were going to do. And then, okay, this is like beginning of the month. And at the end of the month, I would basically send them like a cash thing where I'm like, here's everything we did. And here's how it worked out. And about once a month, I got on a phone with them and asked them for feedback on a project we were working on or something. And through that process, everyone became super emotionally invested and really excited about Freshly Picked. And so I never even built a deck.
Cool. I think that's the way to go.
And I got 2 offers.
Yeah. I mean, I know the purpose, like, you know, like great, build a deck. That works for some people, but like that's also.
Well, for
really
venture,
cool.
you have to build a deck.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to. Right. You're not getting through the door without a deck. But for private equity, it takes so much time and effort to close a deal that if you can incorporate it into how you're already running your business, then you're not having to stop building your business to raise the money. Oh,
that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that venture capital required or not required, but like.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Your idea needs to be laid out. Yeah,
like pretty clear for venture. That's cool. I mean, I knew there was a difference between VC and PE, but.
Well, and it's not.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not just dollar. Like, you know. And my private equity team, oh my gosh, they're the best. I love them so much. I wish all my friends could be part of it. Yeah, they're so incredible.
That's cool. And for you, what was was anything kind of nerve-wracking there for you, or if there was?
No, my superpower is that I don't realize a danger until I'm pretty far past it. So I'll wake up.
Great though.
Oh my gosh, that was scary.
Yeah, you're like, did you realize what you just did?
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
You're like, that was an alligator.
Dumb luck. Yeah, exactly. But
that's cool though. Like I studied marketing. Like I'm a sales guy, and so naturally we bleed a little bit into marketing. And the one thing I never got was market research. Like the only market research I do now when I help people like sell stuff or like their little small businesses is I'll be like, is there other people doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they successful? Yep. That's it. That's all the market research we need to do.
Yeah.
Now we just need to go.
Yeah. There is a time in your business when data just becomes king for everything, you know, but you can get pretty far without that.
Yeah. And that's also the point, you know, that you were making earlier with like, you know, it's different. Like just starting is different than $1 million. It's different than 15, and it's different than Jeff Bezos. Like, eventually we progress. So like when I tell people like, and I'm pretty candid about what I do. Like I don't mess with like anything really in the 5 to 10 million, but if you need help just starting and getting rolling and like getting some traction, like that's where I play, because like that's where I love. Like, you know, I've been at the businesses who do that stuff, but I love helping people realize that like you don't have to be anything crazy. And like I love what you said at the beginning. Like she's not smarter than me. It's like, yeah, like dude. And there's no offense there.
No.
Like, it's just like we're all on the same. We all got the same.
If you are
table.
Living, breathing, listening to this, you are smart.
Yeah, and it's like you can do it. You got this. Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the best stories. Like when I write on my LinkedIn or something, or when I do these podcasts, like it's just funny how I meet all these incredible, successful founders, and the story's the same. Mm-hmm. We just started.
Yeah.
And then we figured it out along the way, and then magic happened. And magic happened because we just didn't give up and just kept going, and we figured it out and found the right people. And because that's what I also realized, like, and I'm sure you found this maybe in your mastermind too, like nobody would want to help me. And I'm like, you'd be really surprised how many people would actually.
Almost everyone wants to help. Almost everyone wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
They're with the exception of a couple assholes.
Sure.
But like,
yeah, whatever.
For the most part, like people want you to be successful.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I find if I'm not asking the right question, I'm not getting the help I need. And so it's on me to figure out what question I need to ask.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I had a friend on a similar note say like, being able to Google is an underrated superpower.
Yes.
And I go, yeah, the secret to Googling is knowing what questions to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband and I will Google the same thing. And he's like, how do you always get results? And I'm like, I'm just asking the right question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
That's the wrong question, gets the wrong answer.
Yeah. I had a girl who worked for me someone would ask a question in a meeting and she'd be like, why don't you GTS that?
What is that?
Google that shit. Like, if it's Googleable, come on.
Yeah, like, yes. Yeah. That's
on.
That's number one rule for podcasters when you interview a guest. Don't ask a Googleable question. Unless I'm at the beginning and I'm telling people to introduce themselves.
Yeah, sure.
Get out of here.
Sure.
Right. But like you're, shouldn't be Googleable. You should have to dig a little bit for that.
Yeah.
But like a good question is one that you don't know the answer to and you need to like dig. I've had to figure out on Google how to ask the same question 18 different ways to get the answer that I'm trying to find,
Right. And then sometimes I'm looking in the images and the videos and I'm like, oh, okay, I asked the wrong question. And then right. Then
you got to rephrase it.
Yeah. Context clues, guys. Come on.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm like not looking for confirmation bias. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. I need to phrase it. It's not.
Or you're not being vulnerable.
Ooh,
if you're not getting, if you're coming to someone and feeling like, ooh, they're not going to respect me unless I act like I have all my stuff together. No one has it together.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to work with people like that anyway.
No, it makes me uncomfortable if I feel like if people are coming to me like fronting and I'm just like, this is not how I operate. Like we're vulnerable, we're open, like I can get vulnerable with anyone.
Yeah, we respect each other.
Yeah,
we'll get through this.
Yeah, like put down your walls and let's get to the root of the problem. For real though,
And that's amazing because and it's just in my circle, but like I sometimes feel like people are just really afraid to do that.
Yeah, well, it's scary.
It is scary.
Yeah, it's hard and except for and if you've asked someone who's one of those few assholes, it's not fun to be vulnerable with them.
No, it's not. But it's also like, but that's when you have a team. Like for me, like yesterday, so we were talking about it before. I don't really care about telling the story. Like I got laid off and I was about to post on LinkedIn that I was like, hey, I'm looking for a new position. And my wife was like, yeah, but if you have that company tomorrow, and if they see that, they might offer you lower or not like respect you anymore, right? And I was like, well, if they come off like that, then I didn't want to work for them anyway. Like if somebody shows their true colors, like that's actually what I need to know. I'd rather know that up front,
right?
That you're gonna do me like that,
right?
Than 6 months into a company, try to do something cool,
right?
And you shut me down, and now we've wasted 6 months together.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So I don't know, and it's my, and but here's the other thing is like we in our life and like when I teach salespeople, I go like, all these objection trainings are dumb because I go, we focus on the minority of people who say whatever they're gonna say, but like, what if they actually say yes though? What if what if I emailed, and I've done this before, but like, what if you email someone big and they actually say like, yeah, let's do a podcast? Like, yeah. I mean, what are they going to tell me? No, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I can live with that.
Yeah,
but I can't live with not asking.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know until you ask. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. But like, and then just being vulnerable with people. Like I had a friend who did that, his boss. But like, when you need people to show you your true colors. Yeah.
So I actually just had a recent experience with this. Last August, I had a nervous breakdown and it was like I'd been struggling with my mental health for years, but I didn't realize it at the time. And it kind of like all came to a head when I had a nervous breakdown. I was out for a walk. I would like go walking every morning and I kind of passed out. I don't remember, but I fell over into like the fence in my neighborhood and I called my husband. I'm like, I think I'm having a heart attack. You have to come pick me up. And we went to the doctor and he's like, you have acute anxiety. And I was like, what? There's something wrong with me. I can feel it. Like my heart was like, it felt like something was wrong. And then went through this whole thing where I couldn't leave my house. Like I lost touch with reality a little bit. started on some medication, started seeing a bunch of doctors and therapists, and had to take like a huge step back from everything. Like I didn't go into work for 4 months. Like I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. And when my meds got right and then my diet kind of evened itself out and I started to have more good days than bad, then I started kind of to venture out a little bit. And my website manager is like, and I was super open with my team, but she's like, let's write a blog post about this. And so we did. And it's been incredible how many people have reached out and been like, I think I'm having a nervous breakdown right now. And I've been able to like point people in the right direction or encourage them to go see their doctor or whatever. I mean, I don't know the answer. So if you come to me, I'm going to tell you, go talk to a doctor. Sure. But like just being open with that, so many more people have felt permission to be open with their mental health as well.
Well, it's a beautiful story. And yeah, I know how hard that is because it's just a wild experience. But the fact that like when you share that story and other people feel now that like they're ready, like that's all that, I think that's beautiful. Yeah. Like the whole experience is just like, yeah, like giving people permission to like, we're all in the, like you think we all have this perfect life, but you know.
Well, and there's social media swings back and forth, you know, where we have veneers and then we're almost too vulnerable. Like some of the stuff I see on TikTok, I'm like, y'all should get a journal. This is not appropriate for internet consumption.
That's fair.
And then it goes back like, but I feel like for me, I always want the person that people meet in person and then the person that they see online, I want them to be able to reconcile those two people. Oh, good. They don't have to be exactly the same person,
but you can be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I only share a part of my personality on social media, not my whole personality and a part of my life. But I want when you meet me to be able to reconcile it. Yeah. And there are some people where you see them online and you meet them in person and you can't reconcile the two. Right. They feel very different. Yeah. And I think there's nothing wrong or right with that, but it could be a defense mechanism. It could be like there's so many reasons for it. But just for me, authenticity means the person you see online is a portion of who I am in real life.
Yeah. Like when we meet you, we won't be surprised. Yeah. You'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because that happens to me all the time when I meet people online. You know, we'll meet up, do a podcast, we'll meet in person. And there's been some times where I'm like, holy cow, dude, you got me.
I'm hoping. You got me. Don't you? I always want to. Oh, I love under delivering it or under promising and over delivering. Yeah. Like absolutely. I love people feeling like, whoa, that was good. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. You're like, oh, that's really cool. But I've had the other part where you kind of hype
the
these people
inverse
up.
Of that. Yeah.
You're like, oh man.
Yeah, and then they're just
you got to go through it, and you're like, oh shoot. Yeah, I remember one conversation. It was actually a pretty big guest, and I won't say any names, but it was actually a pretty big guest, and everything online was cool. We were good. He said yes right away. I was like, dope. Got in this interview and it was like one of the most awkward, difficult interviews I've ever had in my life. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it was live. Like I used to do these live.
Oh, wow.
we like rolling.
Wow.
So but we had to stop doing that after we had an attorney on. And after we had our freaking politician. Our politician on. Yeah, that was great. That was wild. What a wild time. Ben's been with me forever.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, but that's cool. So, are you planning with your podcast? Is it going to be you monologuing? Do you have a co-host? Are you bringing on guests? Everything?
I'm not great. I always have to bounce off energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I couldn't do that.
I can't do it by myself. Do you listen to Andrew Huberman podcast?
Yes, he's the brain.
Yeah, I think because he's a professor, he's actually really good solo.
And he is the master at taking something that's really complicated, teaching it to a 10-year-old. Yeah. No. Like I feel like Michael Scott, like teach me like I'm 10. Teach me like I'm 5.
Yeah. What about 2?
Right, no, he's great.
So he's great. For me, I'm always better with people. So I'm either going to have a guest or a reoccurring like co-host.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either way is great. I tried to monologue. I had a monologue YouTube podcast for a while that was called A Bone to Pick. And it only made it 4 episodes because I was like, hard. I cannot talk by myself.
Yeah, it's very hard. Yeah. Well, yesterday I was talking to my nephew. He's 17 and he's like, why do you want to start a podcast? And I was like, oh, that's easy. I like to hear myself talk. He's like, okay, I'll listen.
Yeah, that's great. But you know what's funny is like when I bring people on, so we used to do this like everything. Like we used to have headphones, like everybody would have headphones. And I took the headphones away because guests would hear themselves talk. Like that's how you monitor the audio. And they were like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like most people hate to hear themselves talk. And the first 50 episodes I outsourced. Because I hated hearing myself talk. If I wouldn't have outsourced those, the podcast would have never went through. Because it was tough for me. For me, it was tough. Because I was like, that's how I sound in real life. I was like, no. Well, that's cool. So I appreciate your time though. This has been great.
This is really fun.
Tell everybody where they can find you, Freshly Picked, whatever you want. If someone's listening and they're eligible for your mastermind, whatever you want to promote.
Yeah. So my Instagram is actually susan.m.petersen, and or you can follow Freshly Picked. My podcast is coming soon. It's not launching until August.
TBD in August. Yep.
Yeah. And we do have some spots left in the mastermind. That's July 27th and 29th. And if you go to my Instagram, there's a link there that you can sign up. Well, you can apply. You have to apply.
And then
you'll get on a phone call with my co-owner Brooke, and she makes sure that your mindset is there. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's so great. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Susan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good, bro.